So we have Christopher Lederer, who's developer manager at Flow Traders, and we have also Alex Mascasan, developer manager La Tora. So our first question will be to a short overview, if you like to give a short overview about what you are doing and what product are you involved. So we have only one mic, so.
First of all, hello, welcome. Yeah, my name is Christopher Lederer. I'm the managing director of our Cluj operations, and we are market maker, liquidity provider in ETFs, exchange traded funds, and we only trade for ourselves. We have no customer business, we have no privateers, we have no investors. The only ones we play with are on exchange trades. That's what we do. That's our core business. All the software we develop for ourselves. So all our requirements are colleague requirements, so to say. And if there's something going wrong, you have a colleague to blame for.
Hi everybody, I'm Alex Mascasan. Yeah. I'm at Tora. We're also in the electronic trading business. We develop software for clients, but we have our own product. This means that we try to improve it. We try to keep up with the latest requirements in the business, and then we try to sell it, obviously, to our clients. As Christoph was saying, yeah, it's a really challenging environment in which you have to work for. And I've been there for about 11 years, and I'm happy to be here tonight, in this evening.
So talking about electronic trading, how did the market evolve in 2018, and how it affect your products?
Well, we've seen some interesting things in 2018, and actually from the end of 2017. Apparently, the markets have been more friendly to this kind of software. So we've seen, for example, a lot of hedge funds popping up in Asia, in the US, and that has come to great benefit for us as we're expanding. We've opened up presence in the US and Europe, because usually we were focused only on Asia. But we've tried to expand and then go to US and Europe. So yeah, apparently it's been a great last year.
Yeah, I have to agree what Alex just said. Markets were friendly. For us, there's a very, very clear indicator if a market is friendly or not, because we are not directional. So we don't have a view on certain stock or certain equity. We just go with the flow, and for that flow we need volatility, so that there's always someone to buy, always someone to sell. In 2017, the VIX, that's the volatility index, was one of the lowest ever recorded. And in Q4 2017, it started to move up again. So then there's more appetite to actually go into trading. And of course, as we develop our own products, the product is continuously being managed and improved. Of course, low times are also good for us. In the end of the day, we still make nice profits every year. But of course, these times you also have to go through, and you have to use them wisely, which we of course can do because we are our own bosses, so to say.
Yes, I talk in the break with Chris, and we talk about how good the volatility helps you in all this trading. How are you handling digital currencies, and what are you doing with them? If you start trading them, and how, and also maybe Alex want to cover a little bit the Tora launched a product on this called Caspin, yes, and to deal with different cryptocurrencies, which seems to be a requirement now for this kind of businesses.
Yeah, so probably not all of you know what Tora means. I mean, what it stands for. Does anybody know? Tora, what does it stand for? It's tiger in Japanese. So we thought of, okay, if we're going to launch another product, try to go to the same, let's say, background. So we chose Caspian. That's also a name of a tiger. But that's a little bit more towards Europe, its location. So yeah, we launched a new product called Caspian. It brings value to funds who want to go into the crypto space, because apparently there is no real product that would allow you to have your portfolio managed, and you don't have, at the moment, you don't have compliance checks. So we thought of getting this done so that we can unify access to across exchanges and have clients learn, or let's say, a single platform. So they don't need to learn how to log into BitMEX, how to use Binance. So, okay, if I use the Binance coin, then I get paid, then I pay less fees and stuff like that. They only need to know, obviously, Caspian, this product, and they have much better visibility and control of their assets. The initial question that you were saying was about how did we...
How do you handle digital currencies, if you handle them?
Yeah, this is the new product, because usually we're from the space of traditional trading, and recently we've launched this product. It's also a partnership with I don't know if any of you are familiar with Galaxy. That's Galaxy Digital, or some big fund in the US. We also have about 7 clients which are already live and using this product. We're going to have an ICO in the next month. So it sounds like interesting times in the near future.
Yeah, we entered the Bitcoin area already in the end of 2017. Of course, it was a general plan of diversification within Flow Traders. We're going towards Bitcoin. Of course, again, we are not directional, so we are connecting to most of the markets. We have our own platform. That took us quite a while. There's still a lot of childhood diseases. You mentioned one of them already, which is settlement times. It's completely unregulated. You have to see that usually we live in a very regulated market, which tells you exactly the do's and don'ts. Here, it's all wishy-washy. You don't really know, and so are the regulators. They're kind of baffled by the success that it has with privateers. You know, everyone is very interested. It's like a huge bubble. In the end of the day, it won't be a bubble. It will be regulated. Then there's enormous difficulties in terms of different technologies that are offered. So yes, some of these guys that actually offer exchanges for Bitcoin trading, they don't have to follow any rules. You know, NYSE, Nasdaq, any exchange that is regulated, they just can't say, oh, today I'm not feeling well, so I will not trade. This rather private companies, they can see how it's go, and then they can actually reduce the speed. They can actually disconnect you, which can happen as well. If they see that you're not participating in the right way, or you're actually too fast, then they will block you. This is all unregulated. This is, I think, you have the same problems as we have. You know, you come in the morning, you expect 15 markets to be connected, and you have 7. Something happened over the weekend, you know, another attack, everyone is taking back his software, everyone is checking if he's affected. So it's still going there. It has created a lot of interest, but I think a lot of people don't really understand what Bitcoin means and where it can actually go fatal, because everyone sees, you only hear the nice stories. You will have very little friends that will tell you, I just lost half my house. They will all tell you, I just got millionaire. That's a regular way to do it. So there is some time to go, but the interest is higher than it was ever for any other product. Yeah. I think everyone, yes. It's something because it's still unregulated, that everyone is having like the gold rush times. It will get regulated over time. How? I don't know.
It's like a magnet, because you have so much volatility over a day that it drags you in. I mean, there's no let's say traditional stock. I was almost about to say coin. So there's no traditional stock that would fluctuate 10%, 50% on a daily basis, or let's say not daily, every 2 or 3 days. But in the crypto space, you do have that, and that's a big magnet for people with money, and also for retail investments, such as, let's say, us here in the room.
And what do you think, let's say if in few years will get regulated, what will happen if all this market will get regulated?
Seeing global situation right now, I think we will not see a global regulation. We would rather see local regulation, which will be very cumbersome, because of course all regulators, they would like to avoid one fact, that they lose contact. Everyone wants to be part of it, and regulators, of course, want just to regulate it, not to lose it. If there's a lot of fights between the US, Asia, crypto is extremely strong in Asia. There it is, a super gold rush. Everyone wants to be involved. US, very similar, Europe, getting there. So there will be a lot of discussions. Will it be ever really fully regulated? I think from a certain perspective it must be. Currently you can finance whatever you want. Cleaning, laundering money, that's all easily possible, because you cannot follow up where the money went, which is, if you think about it, it's kind of shocking, but that's how it is, and that's why it attracts so many people. And of course, we want to be there. We service the market, we buy and sell, and usually we do that in a very high speed. So of course, for us, regulation would be kind of helpful to a certain extent. If it's over-regulated, then you will soon lose the real factor that it's there. You have to see, why is Bitcoin having those 17, 20%? On a regulated exchange, if a stock moves more than 5 to 10%, depending on the exchange, trading is blocked for the day, or at least for the next hour, sometimes even longer. In Bitcoin, the markets would most likely be closed the whole day. In the end of the day, what is the underlying real value, besides hysterics and gold rush feelings? What is the underlying value of every Bitcoin? That's the energy you take to produce. And if you really, really go for it, then you could say, is it everywhere the same? And there you see the big market. The big market is the differences in mining a Bitcoin, which is $26,000 in terms of energy invested in Korea, but only 531 in Venezuela. So we should all move to Venezuela, harvest Bitcoins, but then you face a complete different set of problems. And of course, this kind of extreme will vanish over time. It will get a bit slower. Maybe in 5 years' time, we will not see a spike of 20 to 25%, just in a couple of minutes, not over a day or two, which we see nowadays. So we have to be open-handed. Whatever comes, comes. We will not be able to fight it. We are part of it. We already had some very tough talks with regulators, because of course, us as market makers, and you really have to understand that we're not going into a market, we're not buying something, holding it until it's really worth a lot of money and then sell it back. We try to sell and buy in an instant. If we sell something, we have bought it already. If we buy something, we sell it instantly. That's the way we make our money, and the difference, the spread we take, due to our service function in the market, we make our money there. We don't make our money by huge volatility in an individual contract. It's rather the in and out every day. That's where we live on.
Yeah, so similar to what Christoph said, it may be seen as a bubble right now, but I think the big benefit of it happening was the technology behind it, like blockchain. And I see it as something that would remain for the future, as long as you get to see the utility in each token. So if you have something that's in a fairy tale world, that's not going to last. But if you find some utility to your token, then okay, that will be there, as it has some value attached to it. Also, we're also in the same, since we're in the same business, we're not betting on a certain coin having a big value, so we're not holding those assets. We're just facilitating and offering software to the ones which are actually trading. Be it that maybe they have some strategies in which they think that a certain coin would have a bigger value in 1 month. So okay, they hold the positions. Others are just like in and out and trading during the day. So targeting to have 0 positions at the end of the day, so that they're not exposed. So we're not betting on that. We just offer technology to those who are willing to trade.
Good. And staying a bit here in that area, what do you think about smart contracts which allow people basically to write code and to handle there or other currencies, so you can do programmatically or kind of games or kind of rules? And I'm not anyway, if you see, how do you see this, and if it affects you somehow?
In this moment of time, and I don't believe we will ever really go for smart contracts in that sense, because then you have to have a certain intuition or a certain expectation that we don't have. As said, we try to service the market. I think the technology will not stop. Blockchain as such is far more than just Bitcoin trading. It is a possibility to have a very safe environment and have a binding relation via the blockchain. That is something that we all have to still reflect on. In our area, as said, it's an asset class. We use it this way or another way. We will not go into smart contracts, that's for sure, that we wouldn't see it yet. But let's see, maybe in a couple of years all exchanges will use blockchain as a regular standard. And then we are happy that we are in there today.
Yeah, exactly, some kind of the same answer. Not at the moment, it's not appealing at the moment. But yeah, in the future, who knows? It's good that we're there in the early stages of this space, and hopefully we'll have the edge on competitors, be it local or wherever in the world.
How do you see the Cluj market evolution from a technical point of view, not as a participant necessarily, but as a provider of software? How do you see it in this area? I mean, electronic trading.
Yeah, I have, being a managing director of an office here, I have to have a very positive outlook. That's for sure. And I feel it in my heart. I started working in Cluj 2.5 years back, or meanwhile it's 3 years. And for me, there's a very simple analogon. When I came here the very, very first time, all the roads in the city center, they weren't just being built or renovated. And every time I come here, I try to be here at least every 8 to 6 weeks. And after 3-4 months, you really see a difference. And I think that the biggest benefit of the Cluj market in terms of electronic trading developers, it's very strong. You have hundreds of students coming out, graduates coming out. It's a very volatile and a very vivid market, and that's what we need. In the end of the day, from 10,000 developers, maybe 10 are really interested in what we do. They can see the difference what we do. They have the skill set we need. I'm very confident, and that would be true for any other global location you could find. If you have that many capacity, then you will take something from it. I think when Romania, and I was discussing it yesterday with a colleague, we had our very first hiring in another company I worked for, RTS. It doesn't even exist anymore. It's now part of Bloomberg. It was 1998 when we had the first Romanian developers in, I think it's Sibiu, Taramureș, very early. And see where it got. See the little Silicon Valley here in Cluj that has been created. That will not stop. We will see more and more, especially also with blockchain. If you understood the principles, if you're able to really be with your blood in there, you have a wonderful future. More and more technology will move forward. I don't expect that we'll ever see less technology especially not in trading. That is a true tragedy for us. But in the end of the day, we expect a lot from the Cluj labor market. And so far, we have been serviced quite nicely. We have a wonderful team. Guys are really motivated. And of course, the surrounding nature, yeah, try to find that in London. You know, you travel for 2 hours.
Yeah, so the Cluj community obviously has a lot of it's rich in talent, and I always believe that in order to have success in this domain, you need to have a big pool of people. So from this big pool of people, they're obviously always gonna have the ones who are gonna rise above the others. So as a first rule of everything, you need to have that base, and we do have that now. The technology community here in Cluj is 10-15,000. So yeah, we have all it needs to get exposed to this electronic trading, to bitcoins, to whatever coins you like. And try to, everybody has access now to information. So it's kind of obvious to expect that having access to all this stuff, that you have the ones who are going to rise above. And as long as we get that, everybody's going to be happy. Us as service providers for the others, and the local community that will bring more value. And as long as you have more value, you're going to become like a magnet. So you're going to start, and that happens already now. You start attracting talent from the surrounding counties. And even more if, let's say, the social life, and as Christoph was saying it, you get to see things happening in the community, not technologically speaking. But you see things evolving, that you get to, for example, get to pay your parking space just by sending an SMS or a text message, and stuff like that. You start creating a better life for the people, and you start attracting people from other counties and maybe countries to come and join our community. So, yeah, I see it as going to the right direction.
Sounds great. If you have any questions from the audience, okay.
Thank you. Question for Mr. Lederer. How do you see the evolution of the high-frequency trading sphere? Because we currently find ourselves at a perhaps microsecond level. Do you think that we're going to actually head towards the nano, or are we going to hit a technological or physical barrier?
I think, and I don't think, I believe, we will go as fast as is possible. And that's, you can compare it with any sports. You know, if there's a way to get you faster without doping, please, then you will use it. If there's a way to get faster, and you were talking about of course we are already in nanoseconds. Yeah. You know, if it's the physical layers that you have where you can save a nanosecond, that nanosecond makes you a nanosecond faster. It's a nanosecond faster that you execute something that someone else. So will it at some day stop? I'll give you a nice example. 20 years back, we were sitting in a small group, and at that moment of time, you had Sun microservice. There were 50,000 US dollars a piece, and they had 2 megabytes of memory and 20 megabytes of hard disk. And we said, no one can fill this hard disk. You write text and text and text. Nowadays, we create 5 to 6 terabyte of log data for all our executions worldwide. Of course, this is, you know, now we would potentially predict a stop. But, you know, seeing bioengineering, you know, when will we have 20 terabytes on a fingernail? We are not far from that. If you would have said that 5 years back, everyone would have said, okay, you idiot, I wouldn't deal with you. So the technology will always drive forward. The question would be, when will it stop? Because it might not make us happy anymore. When everything is fully, but then it is the people to rise. You know, technology will always go forward. Technology brought us here, and it can be both a blessing and curse. I cannot predict, but I would say as long as it's possible, it will be done.
As a follow-up, do you believe that this exponential increase in speed is going to make the markets more efficient, or perhaps this will turn around at some point?
Depends on
when we're too fast.
Depends on. That's a technology. It's from a technology point of view. I'm not concerned at all. It will continue and will continue.
Yeah.
It might be a political reason. You know, in the end of the day, someone might come to the idea, you know, all this high frequency trading is bad and we don't want it anymore. And then regulation might kick in. In the end of the day, as long as the playing field is equal for everyone, we don't care. You know, then still the speed would be there, because you know, if you have only one transaction per 200 milliseconds, that was actually the former model of some exchanges that said you cannot send more than 5 orders per second. So every 200 milliseconds, the gate would close after one order. So the maximum was 5. Nowadays we do at the same time 5,000. It really depends on regulation. I don't see this actually as a technology. I really believe that technology will go just forward.
Also, just to comment that high frequency trading, it's already in the hardware level. So if you really want to say you're in the high frequency trading, you need to have some sort of device which is specifically designed, for example, to read your market data, because otherwise, I mean, other people already have it. So if they have it and you don't have it, you lost. So technology, I mean, it's there.
Any other questions?
Hi, question from Mr. Christopher Lederer. You mentioned the strength of the Asian markets in this domain. I would like to ask you, would this be driven mostly by China, by the latest anti-corruption purge, or is there something specific about the Asian markets that make them more viable for this kind of trading?
Again, I can give you a nice example. I think it's a cultural thing. Yeah, and you know it because Tora is pretty strong in Asia. I give you an example. In Hong Kong, there's a horse race, and it's called Happy Betting. It's betting, and if you see Chinese betting, you will be ashamed. So really, you see guys betting their entire income of a year on one day, and if they lose, they take it as a next chance. It's a cultural thing. It's really Bitcoin just exploded there because it had the promise. It's like lottery here. It had the promise to make you rich, and people will not share if they fail. You know, they will. Failure is always you can do better next time, and you continue doing it. For me, it's really a cultural thing. I couldn't say that there is any kind of government mangling, and if I would suspect the government to mangle, I would really look at those guys who have financial difficulties, because their Bitcoin is of course the salvation.
I wasn't talking about government mangling, I was talking about government cracking down on corruption and corrupt people trying to get money.
Yeah, but I think Bitcoin or blockchain technology is not necessarily known as being a very regulated thing. So, you know, if there's any way to hide streams of money, then it is that. I think the peak that we see in Asia, and this enthusiasm or even this gold rush, is a cultural thing, more than anything else.
So if you think of Asian people, Japanese, Koreans, if you think first thing that comes to your mind, what would you say about them?
They save a lot of money. The Thai person, basically. The Asian economies, they have a lot of.
No, I mean the regular people. If you would have technology.
Yeah, very tech savvy. Yeah.
Okay, and everybody imagines them as playing the games on their phones and just texting and walking, and so in there, if they get some free time, we have a lot of spaces like slot machines, not like the ones that we have here, in which we think they're okay with the bad people. You have huge buildings which are just gaming buildings, in which they enter and pretty much bet money. Larger amounts, smaller amounts, but they like doing that. They're into technology things, they like to be things to be flashy, they like things to be noisy, So that's what drives them into it. That's why it's such a success over there, and maybe just picking up in the other countries.
Casinos are heavily regulated in Asia, so why not? You're only able to play in certain jurisdictions like Singapore, Macau.
Yeah, Macau. But they get their joy in other.
They do travel a lot there. Let's put it like this.
Yeah, there's a bit of a difference in mainland China. You don't have it that much. First of all, the availability wasn't there. You certainly have it in Shanghai, Beijing, and all the bigger cities, that's for sure. But if you go, for example, to Korea or Japan, it's an epidemic. You don't have to be in Tokyo to see people going crazy on horse races, going crazy on film. And all these is regulated in those markets as well. Don't get me wrong. No one is doing it on the side. It's a real open thing, which also has again to do with culture. And losing out on a bet is not really losing. It's just bad luck. That's how this is.
Come tomorrow, then eat more.
Yes, tomorrow you have more.
Okay, any more questions?
Hello, one question from my side regarding also electronic trading. Is it trading bots a feasible approach here?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody does that.
People are past them already.
We were just talking about latency, and we were talking about milliseconds, which for us already on a hardware level is nanoseconds. And if you have we could even go deeper. But in the end of the day, I could execute 100 orders even before you notice that something's changed on the screen. Today's high-frequency trading without bots, robots, AI wouldn't actually exist in them. It is too fast. You have to see that you get 4,000 or 5,000 updates within a second, and you take 40 milliseconds physically that your eye even realizes that something. Then your brain wasn't involved yet. That is, we will sooner or later see more operators than traders. Our CEO made a comment about that a couple of months ago in a publication, and all the traders went bananas and said, like, I'm not an operator, I'm a trader, I'm making a lot of money here. In the end of the day, it's the same 150 years back, horses and cars. Evolution will not stop there. We need bots. And of course, currently humans are controlling bots. They have the risk parameters, but sooner or later the bot will control the bot. What will humans then do besides spending the money that they just made? I don't know. We will see. Or maybe some regulation kicks in that we don't want to see this anymore. That is always a possibility. You cannot hold back evolution in no way, I think. If you want to, then it must be a willful decision by governments, by humanity, that we could all see that sooner or later. But no, there's no limit. And there must be bots. I think a lot of algos, they're not controlled by humans anymore.
Yeah, nothing more really to add. Bots are already with us for a long time now, and I think everybody should accept that they exist, and that for the, let's say, end user or the retailer, it's not necessarily it's not about his abilities to trade. It's more about the fact that he was there at the right time, at the right moment. He's not the one influencing the market. The bigger fish are.
Yes, we are getting to science fiction if you go on your
Yeah, that's what they said 20 years back.
Not so much a technology-related question, but do you see sort of a threat on traditional owning of equity and share because of the changes the trading does on it?
No, but you could compare this very easy between since we have assets, why are people still holding on to gold? It really depends on how you want to see stuff. You saw in a couple of countries, you saw enormous rise in equity trading, and then a lot of people burn. They realize if you hold it or you hide it or whatever you do, you are part of a bigger thing where you can't, as an individual, control. Therefore, where we go, just because there is someone trading it for you electronically, doesn't mean that you can't hold it. For me, I still hold very, very old stock. Bayer and Mercedes. I'm having them for 20, 30 years, and I would never give them up. Why would I? Because it's still a value I have. It's just a different kind of asset. That will not necessarily how I do my decisions. That's a different story. But in the end of the day, it depends on what you offer me. What we will see is that sooner or later someone might come and say, like, with my boss, you never lose money. You're in there. Let's be honest. We would go there and say, like, oh, if you promise me that in writing and I make my 5%, you do it. That's the human nature again. So we are just executing what others want. Of course, benefit from it, and of course we will make it a smooth ride for everyone involved. But that we want to make more money, and if it's gold, diamonds, or whatever, that is just a different asset class. Underlying is the nature of humans to make more money or to secure. You see a big difference in how people see assets on the long term. In Germany, it's the house. The house is the only thing you can hold. The only thing that brings you revenue. Yeah, in the US, most people hold equity for their retirement funds. And it's an easy explanation. If you look at the Dow Jones Index since its creation, it never went over a year worse. Even in the deepest recession, it never went worse. So it's just a perspective. If you want to be offloaded within minutes, that's not the market. If you have a speculation long term, maybe you're at the right spot. That's really a very personal human decision to take.
Yeah, like I said, I agree. So it's not the trading. This electronic trading will not influence the value that you think that a certain equity can bring to you or not. It's just the means in which you can, in which it can bring more value to you or not. Back in the days, you thought you trusted more maybe a certain broker, or you trusted yourself as being the one who makes the calls, the decisions. And maybe in the future you're going to trust that algo which says that, okay, I guarantee you the 3-5% over a year. So.
Any more questions?
When do you think everything will be tradable? I'm referring to all assets, including real estate and companies and everything. Maybe they're going the cryptocurrency way, so they can be tokenized. A timeline? Yeah. Well, what would it take for that to happen?
People are getting used to it. The technology is there already. With smart contracts, etc., that is already the quadra true. That's even higher. In the end of the day, with blockchain, that is actually possible. We can have an agreement, and we can settle it now, and it's tighter than any regulation that any public government could ever bring up. That's a real strength within blockchain. Let's be clear. You can actually do that already. If you find a counterpart who accepts Bitcoin, you buy a house via Bitcoin. So that wouldn't be a problem. The value is there, the agreement is there, you're done.
Exchanges are not listing that.
That's not true, because they already list the future, which comes down to the same thing, just in a different variation. Exchanges, as such, will always be interested to service you, and when you, in terms of public, want more, it will happen. A lot of people 5 years back, when the first Bitcoin came, said they don't have a chance to survive. Every regulator will go against it, as I said. You can finance blindly whatever you want. No one will be able to see where your money goes. That technology is long there. It just takes the time until we realize what we really can do with it. And let's be very honest, the smart contract, everyone is kind of trying to find a better meaning of blockchain, where you can use it, where it's a benefit of all of us. And there will be pros and cons, I'm pretty sure about it. And some technologies will survive, but in the end of the day, you're absolutely right. Sooner or later, timeline, I don't know. We might do business with Chinese counterparts, and we don't need any kind of Hermes agreement, security, etc., because we have the blockchain, which is, to the both of us, a very clear fundament of agreement, and that's all you need. That's what exchanges were there for. You know, in the end of the day, how scared must exchanges be that I could say, why would I have an exchange if blockchain would enable me to buy the stock from Mercedes directly? Why? Well, the technology is there. There's no question about that. Of course, regulation is still there and it will not stop. But I see it coming sooner or later.
Yeah, technology is there, and I had an interesting discussion during the break. You mentioned that you were curious to know when we think that everything will be tradable. But the technology is there, so almost everything can be tradable. It's just that you also need some sort of acceptance within, let's say, social acceptance. Because even though you buy a house and you pay with bitcoins for it, you still need to go to the notary office and sign, and you get a stamp and stuff like that. So in order to make that fully digital, you need to have a certain level of, or a high level of acceptance within the society. So when that happens, everything will be tradable.
As a follow-up, can you elaborate a little bit on BNR's position about e-money? I've seen some recent news about the National Bank of Romania making a statement that e-money are allowed in Romania only certain conditions. So if you know anything about this.
So electronic money are not allowed?
No, you need like 350,000 euros capital in order to be able to create your own e-money and so on. So they're a little bit against this technology trend. So if you know what's up.
By e-money, you're referring to a coin, so you're not allowed to.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
I can tell you a story. I have a friend who works for some currency as a developer, and he's supposed to be paid in, I don't know, Bitcoin or some coins, right? And he cannot get those money in Romania on his company because it's not legal.
Okay,
so he needs to go, he's looking to go in Estonia, pay their citizenship and get the money.
there you have the answer already. Money is like water, it finds its ways. It always does.
So as a legal person, you're not allowed. That means, as a legal person, you're not allowed to have to be paid or have income in cryptocurrency.
It seems that you cannot. Yeah, there is no legislation.
Yeah, but
It is considered fraud.
Yeah, because the state cannot control it. That's
Yeah, they're not ready to do that. So.
absolutely, that's
It's against state and then banks.
But securities
But I think that was more like a recommendation from the National Bank, and basically a lot of banks decided to go through and go with it. Yes, because of regulation. And I don't know if you're familiar with CoinFlux.
Yeah.
That's actually a local clue-based cryptocurrency exchange, which was heavily affected by this because banks started to block their accounts, and they had to move from a bank to another, and in the end they actually gave up on Romanian line or on the currency deposits and withdrawals. So they basically were left up with euros in some other country. I don't know if it was Estonia or whatever.
I think it's Luxembourg.
Yeah.
Luxembourg.
yeah. The typical suspects, yes.
Yeah.
Typical suspects.
If it's not the Swiss guys.
No, I think again, I don't think on a long-term perspective, because currently everyone is trying to understand how this could be regulated. We're talking about regulation. I don't think we'll see unity there soon, because there's a lot of interest to keep it a bit separated, continue to evaluate how it's going. But as soon as the first one starts regulating it, it will be like a mass movement, and everyone will try to do the same. You know, that would be really the last step, and then we see everything we just discussed actually materialize. Then it wouldn't be a question anymore if I paid in RON or Bitcoin. Because in the end of the day, the government of Romania will not say no if I pay my employees in euros, US dollars, or Japanese yen. It's still a better currency. The problem is that Bitcoin is not yet a better currency. A lot of people accept it, and everyone is super horny on it. But in the end of the day, if it comes heart to heart, it's not a currency.
There was a question.
It wasn't a question. I just wanted to say that even to be paid in euro, the invoice needs to say, well, we agreed in a contract this amount of euro, but you are paying me today's rate in lei. You can only be paid in lei, so it's not so much cryptocurrencies.
But then you have a conversion rate.
Now that I'm,
No, you can't
I
be
have
paid
the
in
microphone.
euro if the company is from UK, right, or whatever.
You can?
Yes.
On your company, not as an individual.
It would be absurd.
You can issue an invoice if you're.
Yeah, I mean, I can invoice. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think officially the paycheck still has to show the amount in lei as well.
Yes, but
But
as
the
an
tax.
employee. As an employee.
There's a tax on the amount in lei. I think it's weird to say in a contract. Each month you will pay me at whatever Kraken rate is.
No, because we have that currently already for easiness of bookkeeping. You have as companies. You know, we have 5 different companies in we have one in the US, Hong Kong, Singapore, Amsterdam, Cluj. Of course, we have with all the regulators and also with the local government here in Romania, we have clear agreements, you know, how to do that. So we have a fixed rate, for example. Because, you know, the government wouldn't like an exposure. You know, that's the biggest thing. If all of a sudden I pay you in Bitcoin and Bitcoin loses 50% of its value, which could actually do in a couple of days, then you look stupid. If it gains 150%, I'm stupid. And I think the government will try to find that moment of time when it's stable. Currently, you can easily go and say, okay, we set the euro to RON conversion is 4.25, 4.35, and you can set it for 3 months, 6 months, or a year. That's up to you. So there is regulation in place. You know, every of these regulations would apply to any Bitcoin as well, if it's regulated.
Good. And now the last question, if you have any.
Sorry for asking the second question, but so my question is more about the kind of currencies. So right about now, I think there are like 800 cryptos. I'm not sure exactly about the number, but I would say that most of them will disappear. I mean, most of them are a Ponzi scheme in a way or so. So I understand the value of blockchain as applied to cryptos is that it would sometime in the future stabilize so that it could actually be used not exactly as an investment but more as a currency, an actual currency. So it would need to do that. Would you say that it would need government regulation to get to that point, or will it stabilize on its own? So
the thing is that currently they are very sensitive to any kind of news. They're super sensitive to whatever happens in the world, because everybody thinks, oh, if that happens, if oil is no longer exported by Iran, then we're going to have whatever. So it needs, in order to get stable, I think it needs to have, there are 2 factors that need to be involved. First of all, you need to have just a little bit of regulation. You can't just let it all out there and what happens, because people will get scared, and as long as they get scared, they react based on instinct on every kind of news. So that would be the first one. So that would be sort of a political involvement in it, and then I think the success ones would be the ones who have which are backed by a certain value. So they have a value attached to it. So that it's more easy to measure its value and have a constant thing.
There's 2 things to your thought. Number one, of course, if we look just purely at regulation, Would regulation have an effect on the amount of cryptocurrencies there? Depending on the rules, yes. But I think it's far more important to understand in this huge market, over time, what will drive a successful exchange towards a non-successful exchange. It's the service quality. Ovidiu had a question initially posed, settlement time. So how long it does actually take before your bitcoins arrive somewhere? There's exchanges where it takes a day or two. Others do it in 15 minutes. As more users there will be, the more it will crystallize who has the best business model, who's the securest. And regulation will most likely not be the biggest driver there, because then they all have to apply to regulation. We have a lot of banks, and they all have to apply to the same regulation, even European, you have a passport. So most likely the same thing will happen in cryptocurrency. What is the driving factor? Depending on the service. What is the cost of the service? How easy? How flexible? How quick? That's more than regulation. Regulation will kick in sooner or later. Because if people start losing money on Bitcoin, then it's out. What I would say, and that's the second point, they do inherit a certain technology, blockchain technology. So maybe we see some exchanges offering completely different services because they have the infrastructure, they have the connectivity, maybe they offer something else. I see certainly consolidation coming up, that's for sure. We might see certain countries forbidding to have any kind of Bitcoin, like China. The chances are there. But when? I don't know.
And yeah, one more question. How? So how do you see your product evolution for 1 year from now? What area are you trying to improve your products and platform?
As far as Caspian goes, because that would be a crypto space, we're going after as many exchanges as we can, so that we try to unify into a single platform to give hedge funds the ability to trade virtually everywhere, and afterwards try to be the market leader into that space, because we're the first ones which bring knowledge and software and the product from the real, let's say the classical trading space, and bring it to the crypto space and make it available for large institutional clients. So yeah, we're aiming to be number one.
I agree to that. Everyone wants to be number one. We would be the same. We would of course continuously update our products, especially in the crypto space. We are, hoping that there is a kick in on the API level, where the exchanges tend to agree what kind of APIs they publicly or make publicly available that would help everyone, that would help them as well, which is extremely disruptive, especially if you look at the higher scale investors, if you look at bigger companies going into that area. They don't want to create an interface for everyone. Maybe initially that's fine, but in maintenance it's killing. If you have 150 different exchanges that update every second month, you're just investing so much time, money, and resources to get to the plain level. I think that's where we always will be. We will try to have very close contacts to all those exchanges. We bring them service, we bring them volatility. So we try to influence as much as we can. I think that's the thing we are looking for. Diversification. Everyone needs to do that sooner or later. Either you create new products, you listen to your customers, what they really would like to see. We listen to the markets, we look at our order books, we look at our profits and losses, and that's what drives us. It will never stop, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we got a